All right, guys, welcome back to the channel. Many of you will have just joined us. We had our great friend Scott Cowx join us in the Q&A live.
Yeah, it's great.
That means only one thing, Matty boy.
Lesson time.
Lesson time number 2 for the swing journey. Very excited to have Scott in with us today.
Definitely.
We both feel like we made some really good progress over the past 4 weeks or
4
so.
weeks, yeah.
And really excited to kind of see what Scott thinks. Have we made some decent changes? Guys, I hope you've been following along on Matt's Instagram, on my own Instagram. That's where we post our regular updates on the swing journey. If you guys aren't getting it, on the channel as much, that's where you'll find it on our Instagram. So make sure you follow both of us on the journey with that, and also on Scott's Instagram because you do post them as well when we are posting our updates. So
only post the good ones.
Only the good ones. Yeah, me too.
We also only post the good ones. So
So let's see where we're at with our progress. Really excited with kind of, I think, the evaluation that we had in round 1.
I agree. I think round 1, lesson 1 was more of an evaluation, especially for me, of where the shortcomings are and where the lessons will progress. I think now we're starting to get into, okay, you've started to work on the motions. Sure. How much progress have you made and what's next?
Yes, exactly. So lots to come. Scott and I have been dialoguing. We kind of connect when Scott's in coaching at our Mississauga location. So I do get the very fortunate position of being able to go, okay, this is going on or that's going on, as well as the text and sort of stuff. So really, really good. But I'm really excited to do some work on it today.
Okay, so you two, why don't you get started?
Let's do it.
All right, so just for the viewers, I think maybe just a recap of what that elephant's trunk pattern was basically about. And certainly they can go back and look on the channel and see that entire first lesson. But basically what we have is sort of a Rory McIlroy, Xander Schauffele type of a model where we have the lead arm is being dynamically loaded. So what that means is the lead arm is staying fairly wide in the swing going back, okay? And then it's going to sort of lower and pinch into the chest a little bit in transition. Right. And we're gonna drive the pivot around very aggressively, and then the arms may fling off, through the impact area.
Yeah, I mean, when you're picking patterns for players, obviously, their delivery and their shot shape will dictate that. Will any of the physical attributes come into that? Because when we look at someone like Rory, someone like Xander, I think they are also, they're similar stature to me, about 6'2". And that type of thing.
Sorry, you almost lost me for a second. I almost let that go.
They're also, like our height, we were all about the same height, right?
Yeah.
The three. Does that come into it a little bit?
I think it's, a lot of it's based on the needs of the player, right? Especially obviously to play on the PGA Tour, there's a certain sort of low threshold on speed production. So I think for both of those players being slightly smaller, it gives them a window in terms of some speed production that otherwise some of the other patterns may not be able to create.
Right. I love it. Okay, why don't we see where we're at and go from there.
All right, so we chatted the other day, Ian, a little bit about just some of the checkpoints we wanted to use in the swing.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And for those of you following at home here, basically we talked a little bit about the pressure points of the lead arm and the chest.
Yeah.
Okay, so in this particular swing model, we have the arm kind of raising up the side of the chest and connecting high up on the left chest. Let's call it just above Galvin Green on your nice vest there. But transitionally, this arm is going to fall, so it falls on the lower part of the pec. Let's call it below Galvin Green.
Love it.
Okay. And if it lowers, that is your shallowing piece. So this is not a negative beta form tracer, which we answered a question on the channel a little bit earlier. This is not a pitching of the shaft shallower. This is a lowering of the whole apparatus. Okay, so the lead arm is lowering, the club is also lowering, but because it's lowered, now we can go ahead and pivot and rotate without a lot of excessive side bend.
Right.
So one of the drills that we had to do was just to sort of work on that as almost like a Mike Weir full backswing sort of waggle, if you will, where you kind of felt those pressure points.
Okay. That really has helped me. I will say that, anytime I default, I'm struggling a little bit. If I just go straight back to, loading it above Galvin and then transitioning below Galvin, I very quickly fall back in line. So normally for me, if I'm falling out of line or out of sequence, I'm a little too low with the lead arm, pushes the right arm a little bit behind, and then a steepen rather than having the kind of, the nice sort of transition.
Yeah, it's all about creating space.
Yeah.
Right. You're creating that space by doing that in the backswing.
Right.
And just as a sort of a quick aside, so this is a great pattern for players that might have some limited mobility from an external rotational capability in the shoulder.
Yeah.
I know in Scotland you kick balls, but you don't throw anything.
No.
So as a result, there's some limitations in external rotation in Scotland.
We throw a few things, but the balls are not one of them.
Anyway, so if we are a little bit limited in that range, this is a very good pattern to still be able to produce some great pass, some great speed, without trying to get this sort of external trail elbow.
It's a really, really good point. I'd never thought of it that way. Like, there's no baseball, there's no kind of any movement patterns, through school that you're doing in repetition for years. I never have thought of it that way.
Yeah. Football, hooliganism, and bagpipes. That's about all we got.
No external rotation.
The only thing we throw is from about the shoulder high.
There you go. All right, so let's do some soft ones first.
Okay.
We'll get the above and then below the Galvin kind of feel.
Not too many of them, I will say. If anything, I've had a pattern that's slightly right of target. So
yes.
Yeah, a little bit more of that type of miss.
Yeah, and that was more of a pronounced rotation through the ball, right? A little bit harder, a little faster rotation.
Much better.
That's a great swing.
That one felt nice.
Yeah, beautiful move on that one. A couple little pieces we talked about the other day. If we've got a reference here, I've just got this extra tee here on the ground,
right,
about a foot or so outside the golf ball. And when we go ahead and load the lower pressure point below Galvin Green, we want the butt end of the club to point at that tee. Okay, and if we do,
some more sort of in that.
Right,
yeah,
what we call the lowering rate. So now you've got room to turn, and the club head is already lower, so there's no need to tilt back.
Yeah.
So when we see players get the club perhaps a little bit more on the steeper side in this area, the body is going to want to tilt to try and lower that club head down.
I get it.
Which is,
So anytime we get this a little bit outside the golf ball, maybe in this ballpark, now there's no need to tilt. We can actually go ahead and just turn, and you feel how level you feel there.
Yeah.
Okay. There's a lot less side bend. Okay, there definitely still is side bend, but it's less than generally you would have before. So let's do that little waggle. Maybe we get that down the line camera to see this a little bit. So we'll get that high pressure point, and I just want you to stop so the butt end of the club points at that white tee. So above the pressure point, below the pressure point, perfect. Now you can even hit it, just turn and go. Good.
That's a cool little drill.
Okay. Yeah. So you can kind of get a sense of how the body wants to move there.
What do you think that was? So we were trying to pitch that handle down, that
worked.
toe up.
Absolutely. So we call this swing mapping, right? We're just doing this in slow motion a little bit, trying to get a feel for the mapping of this whole thing, where the body is, where the club is. Good. So this time when you do the drill, I'm going to make it a little harder.
Okay.
So we're going to do the same thing. We're going to point it at the tee, but the instruction will be a little different. Okay, so there you are. Now, what I want you to do is I want you to try and move this rib faster than that arm.
Okay.
Okay, so when you hit this, I want that rib to move faster than the arm.
Okay.
Okay, now that's your club face control.
Yeah.
So when you lose the club face control, what it is the loss of that lead arm reduction. So essentially that lead arm catches up to the rib.
Yeah.
Okay, and as it catches up, it's going to cause the wrist to break, and we're going to see that face want to close.
Yeah. So that was a really good rep, obviously, because you've easily been able to place the club 3+ degrees toe up.
And that's wild.
And so, Scott, just so people understand, like, we get that Ian's doing a drill, but his capability to get that toe up and drill, full speed, he'll be 1 degree up or even, like, I think once you produce the speed.
Right, exactly. I mean, I think there's a little more droop, obviously, in the shaft as we go faster, as well as just the dynamics of it are probably going to cause that to go down a little bit.
But it's good to see the capability of it at
But these are numbers that we've never had.
Yeah, okay, really. Great swing.
Yeah, lovely.
Like that one, I felt like I could turn really hard on.
Exactly.
That was really, really nice.
Right. And that's where the speed's going to be for us. Okay.
That's got to be a model swing there.
0 toe up.
Yeah.
I mean, beautiful. Okay. Now, if I'm picky, which I'm picky, okay, so shaft was a little steep,
Yeah.
right? So instead of pointed down at that outside tee,
Yeah, we were probably...
shaft came down a little steep, which
it.
made you tilt fractionally,
Yeah.
which pushed the path more to the right. And because you haven't been flipping it,
Right.
we just left the face open.
Yeah.
Okay, and there was a little movement that Ian does here at the top that causes this, and I want people to understand this. So when Ian gets in trouble, there's a little bit we call late radial. So right here, he adds a little bit of radial, and then you see how that changes the pitch of the shaft, and it gets steeper.
Okay.
Okay, so when we're doing this, we want Ian to feel this stays fairly wide, that we don't end up hinging this radially this way.
Yeah.
We're gonna feel like this stays wide, and basically this angle, Ian, between this lead form and the shaft is gonna stay the same distance. We're not gonna let this get closer.
Yeah.
Okay.
So when he pitches the shaft with a little bit of extra hinge and it gets vertical, that makes it more likely that he'll push the path out
He
and
will.
tilt?
He will tilt for
I see.
sure.
Okay.
Right. If he didn't, right, we'd be Charles Barkley.
Yeah.
Right. We'd be out here.
Right.
So if you actually rotated from that position, the
Right.
club would be in such a poor position that you wouldn't
Yeah.
even be able to hit the ball.
Right, so he just makes the
So a
compensation.
good player is always going to slide and tilt to try and get the club back into a position that they can. But now everything is open and behind them. The only thing I can do at that point is obviously
Right, flip.
flip it.
Now I can feel this is in a different spot, so I feel like I've still got a little bit too much tilt in the last couple. I'm not feeling that same really nice motion we talked about earlier where the triceps attached to the rib cage.
Yep. Now do that one more time.
Okay.
I'll help you with that feel. So go ahead and bring it up and line it up to that T. Okay, so if I take my hand here, I'm going to put it right on the side of your lats, right on the side of the rib cage. So I'm going to put that right in between that space between the rib and the shoulder. Now I'm going to leave my hand here. I want you to get it down to impact without crushing my fingers. Feel the difference here?
Yeah.
So there's a lot more hip rotation than you normally would have.
Yes.
Normally this hip likes to slide
So
and
get
get
a
over here
little
too much.
that way.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's all we're fighting a little bit is understanding how to keep this spacing is really about this hip being able to push back this way in the swing a little bit. You feel like you're pushing away from the target line.
Yeah, definitely actually,
Okay.
yeah.
Right, so now we're pushing away from the target line. Now you're exposing this rib to the sky, right? Nobody does that better than DJ, right? You watch DJ coming through, you're gonna see this rib is straight up toward the sky, okay? But that's the feeling. So to get that rib around the corner, we've got to get the hip to go. So if the hip wants to slide out instead of rotate, now all of a sudden we end up with a little push cut.
Right.
Okay, let's do that again.
Felt better.
Yeah, look good.
Definitely felt better.
But that's how you're going to control the face, right? So now you literally are tying the face to your pivot.
Yeah.
And you're controlling the direction of this thing just with your pivot.
Yeah.
Good. Very well put
really good.
together. Yeah.
That's great. So some new drills for Ian, but I would say just building on concepts that you guys have already talked about.
Which I really like.
Yeah, I think the simplicity of you monitoring the pitch of the shaft, so the steepness of the shaft, you not adding, I know you referred to it as adding radial, but for most people like
Called upward
hinging,
cocking.
wrist cock.
Yeah.
So not adding that seemed like a big key for you.
Definitely.
And then getting your left rib, left oblique to really turn around the corner.
Yeah.
Those three things, I think, you know, and nice to see that they're relatively simple. I think that'll be easy for you to work on.
Definitely.
So keep an eye on Ian's Instagram, Ian Fraser Golf. I'm sure you will practice many, many times over the next week because we're traveling.
Yeah.
I think we both like to be in good swing shape. So
Yeah.
make sure you follow Ian to keep progress on that. And Scott, when's the next time we'll see you?
Probably another month.
Okay, so we will be back at it for another month's work and then back with Scott after that.
Awesome.
Okay, guys, thanks for watching. We'll see you again soon.